All right. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, 6:30. It's pitch black outside. 6:30 Eastern time. I want to be respectful to my podcast guest here. We are here for the yearly JLM BRM podcast previewing the Army-Navy game. We will talk about a plethora of topics on this podcast. Jackson, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm unbelievable. Jackson is coming out from Pensacola, Florida. We can go ahead and crack a beer. I'm going to start with a Miller. I have a couple of different options today. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh,
Well,
what you got?
Up there.
What you got?
I have a Fat Tire Ale.
Fat Tire Ale.
Oh, Fat Tire Ale.
Fat Tire Ale. I'm rocking with a Miller.
Fort Collins and Asheville, North Carolina.
Shout out to the great state of North Carolina. Cheers, my friend. Looking forward to this. One of my favorite podcasts that we do every single year. Pour one out for Ed. He was on this one last year. He is traveling to Tampa or somewhere in Florida. He's got a golf tournament he's working on. But JLM, kicking off this podcast with a haiku, as we always do, came from Pete McGee. His haiku: midshipmen, black knights, inter-service bragging rights. Who wins this year's fight? Really good. Got a couple rhymes in there. Jax, any notes on this haiku here?
I remember seeing that one on Twitter when the podcast was announced, and I was a fan of it because I liked it. It stuck out to me. It was quality. I actually had to Google what a haiku means. I think I had to Google it last year as well. But my understanding is 5, 7, 5 syllables.
Yes, correct.
Haiku came from Japan, I believe. I don't know that for sure. That might get me in trouble.
I don't know why I would
assuming things, but I liked it. I thought it was a quality note. I like
quality coup, as we like to say here. Starting now, I just came up with that. But here we go. So Army Navy, obviously Virginia Tech, huge ROTC component. Couple quick notes. We're going to identify a couple of Virginia Tech grads that are special to this, but 8 Virginia Tech alumni have received America's highest honor in the Medal of Honor. My brother, JLM, a Navy grad, currently in flight school as a Marine Corps aviator. Army Navy is one of my absolute favorite rivalries in the country. Jackson, I want to ask you, where does the Army Navy game stack up for you in terms of rivalries? What does it mean to you? Tell me a little bit about your feelings towards the Army Navy game.
I believe from a history standpoint, it's the most significant rivalry. Maybe not from a football history rivalry, but I believe as an American history rivalry with respect to football, I think it's the most important one. I think it's one of the longest rivalries. I'd say
25 years, 125 meetings.
I'd say it's one of the most well-regarded rivalries in sports. I mean, at the end of the day, it was the only game on this Saturday for a long time. That has since changed with the Camilla Bowl and some other bowl game because they have too many damn bowl games as there is already. But it's important. I mean, especially for me, playing football, and we have an uncle who taught at West Point, and growing up, I always went to West Point games. He was a season ticket holder, and the inter-service bragging rights. Getting back to Mr. McGee's haiku, that goes beyond the people actually in the service. It goes in between the families, and it's all respectful. There's nothing about it that is hostile, and it can be, but I'd say the good parts of the rivalry vastly outweigh the negative parts of the rivalry. And by that, I mean respectful versus hostile. Now, you look at other rivalries in college football, some can be pretty hostile. Doesn't mean it's a bad rivalry.
Right.
Think of Appalachian State and Georgia Southern.
What an
Big
unbelievable pull.
Big,
What?
big time rivalry, and
It is. It is.
quite hostile rivalry between the two.
Yes.
But then I think of
I mean, Ohio State,
Ohio State,
Michigan,
Michigan. That's an obvious example from this
Alabama,
year.
Auburn. I mean, we got
Alabama, Auburn. I wouldn't say that's quite as violent as or as hostile as some of the other ones.
hot take.
Well, maybe. But the hostility is vastly overshadowed by the great things that come out of the game. And that's
Well said.
just the overall it's the overall I don't want to say this as somebody on the in the service, but the appreciation that the two teams and the two services receive from the country and the football fan base as a whole, it's special, and I think it's different than any other rivalry, and in that sense I think it's the best rivalry objectively.
So, couple questions from your experience at Navy for those who don't know. Is there anything special that goes on campus week of, or for somebody who doesn't know anything about the Army Navy rivalry, can you tell me a little bit about what goes on campus?
Well, so this year was actually one of the first years they've done it in a little while. They had stacked pallets about from the pictures it looked about 50, 75 feet high, and then they put a mule on top and set it all on fire. So that was pretty cool to see.
Okay.
Another thing that happens at Navy during the Army Navy week and the Air Force week as well is it's a week of pranks, essentially, where the students can prank each other however they see fit. They can prank each other. They can prank the other military staff that's on campus. Some teachers allow you to prank them. That typically doesn't go over very well, but a lot of fun times stick out. I remember this was Air Force Week, but same concept. I remember hearing, I didn't see it, but I remember hearing of a whole weight room's worth of squat racks being put in our Olympic swimming pool overnight.
Oh my God.
I've heard of inert torpedoes, essentially not model torpedoes, but actual torpedoes that have been rendered inert. I've heard that students would grab those and then put them in their company officer's office in the middle of the night. So the company officer returns to a torpedo in their office, or they would take all their furniture and put it in the hallway overnight. And it's a fun time. It's it's a good time. I remember my freshman year, we took all the wardroom. Well, the wardroom is essentially a common area for the people who live on the same floor of Bancroft Hall, which is our dorm, single dorm. We took all the furniture out of the wardroom and made a proverbial porch in front of our dorm room. So that was just little stuff like that that sort of break up the monotony of going to a service academy, because it is fun other weeks and it's a special opportunity, but it benefits the students can benefit from having a good time sometimes.
Let your hair down a little bit.
Let your hair down a little bit and sort of cut loose a little bit with there are repercussions depending on what you do, but
yeah, you got to grab the torpedo and put it back. You got to get I don't know how they would have gotten the squat rack out of a Olympic sized swimming pool, but
I think somebody got some new squat racks.
Yeah, sounds like it. Well, let's dive into this game. Army Navy 125th meeting. Navy leads this rivalry 62-55. I think you had like 7-ish ties in there. Army has won the last 2 and 6 of the last 8. Navy won 14 in a row from 2002 to 2015. JLM 2-2 in his time at Navy. And we are going to dive into the uniforms, which are incredible. I have the Navy one behind me, but we'll dive into the Army uniforms first. They are commemorating. First of all, the uniforms in this game are always unbelievable. Nike does an amazing job. Under Armour does an amazing job. The Nike uniforms are commemorating the 101st Airborne of the Army, Battle of the Bulge specifically. Couple of guys that I looked up from Virginia Tech. We had Pleasant Shields from the 5th Army Division from Richmond, Virginia, class of 1939. He was wounded right before the Battle of the Bulge and refused to evacuate when offered. So grit, first of all, tremendous amount of grit. He is quoted in this article as saying, "I didn't want to leave the unit because the chances were you wouldn't return to the same unit. You developed comrades and you knew they would die for you and you would die for them. If you changed units, you wouldn't have that same comradeship." In addition to the Purple Heart that he received for his wound, he also received the Bronze Star for his meritorious service, the Combat Infantry Badge, and 5 Battle Stars. So shout out to Pleasant Shields of the 5th Army Division from Richmond, Virginia, class of 1939. And then one more, Virginia Tech graduate Sergeant William E. Hawkins of the 101st, served in the Vietnam War. He served as a medic of the 326th Battalion, passed away May 26, 1970, when his helicopter was struck by an RPG in Vietnam. A lot of history between Army, Navy, Air Force, all of the service branches at Virginia Tech. If you are listening to this and you have a family member or yourself are serving in the military and went to Virginia Tech or beyond, thank you so much for your service. There is so much history behind this. Battle of the Bulge. I'm a bit of a history buff myself. One of my favorite conflicts of just a bunch of guys persevering when they got hit in the face in a snowstorm, no reinforcements, no air cover, and one of the biggest reasons that the Allied forces were able to win World War II. Great movies about it. Read up on it if you hadn't had an opportunity. Jackson, do you have any thoughts on the Battle of the Bulge in general?
It's a good example as to how tough war can be. And I highly encourage everybody to do their own research on the Battle of the Bulge. I need to do more personally, but it was cold as hell. It was cold. So that is the cold is it's a factor in interpersonal violence. I would imagine, and they learned that.
That is one hell of a sentence. The cold is a factor in interpersonal violence. Jackson, do you want to talk a little bit about these Navy uniforms? You can see them behind me. The Jolly Rogers, they look great.
Yeah. So being a hopeful pilot in the Marine Corps, obviously I enjoyed these uniforms a lot. And when I found out, or when I was reminded that we were doing the annual podcast for Army Navy, I thought it would be a cool idea to look into the uniforms and figure out the history behind the two, because there's a insane amount of history behind Battle of the Bulge, obviously, and these Jolly Rogers. So please excuse me if I look down at my notes for a second. I was
go nuts, dude.
I was gathering a lot of information about the Jolly Rogers. For those who don't know, the Jolly Rogers is the insignia of the Skull and Crossbones that's on the helmet. That insignia is tied to multiple naval aviation squadrons throughout the history of naval aviation. First flew in 1943 on the Corsairs of VF-17. They acquired 154 and a half air-to-air kills over the Pacific. For those who don't know, that's Battle of Midway, fighting Japan, air-to-air combat versus their 0. And they were skill pilots, and we were skill pilots as well. 154 and a half air-to-air kills over the Pacific, which is a significant number. We eventually...
Just one thing, because I am a big World War II guy. For those, I'm going to interject with some facts here. The 0 was an unbelievable mechanical feat by the Japanese. And I think it's a testament to, I'm not saying the Corsairs were not awesome, but the pilots in the United States Air Force and the United States Navy were fighting against
Marine Corps.
And Marine Corps fighting against an incredible machine that I would ask you, would you argue that the 0 was a superior flying vehicle as to what the United States had, a testament to how good the pilots were in their situation?
It depends. I don't personally know enough to know about the design of the Zero and the Corsair. I do know that the Japanese pilots initially were very skilled, and they're very skilled pilots, and eventually we sort of won a war of attrition in a sense. Skill, for sure, skill is a factor always, especially with flying. I do believe we proved that I'll save that for work. But in 1946, that squadron was redesignated to VF-5B and then VF-61. In 1940, that was in 1948, and they transitioned to the F-8. From there, they transitioned to the first jet fighter, the F-9, and then the F-3. The squadron was decommissioned in 1959, and then the Skull and Crossbones was transitioned to VF-84, and that squadron then transitioned from the F-8 to the F-4, and then the F-14 Tomcat. The F-14 Tomcat is the plane that everybody sees in Top Gun. Following the decommissioning of VF-84, VF-103 adopted the Skull and Crossbones. They flew many missions over Vietnam and achieved the only nighttime kill of a MiG during the entire conflict. For those who don't know, the MiG, it was a great jet, and we were flying F-4s and A-4s at the time. But to get a nighttime kill on a MiG was a big deal at the time.
Flying at night and fighting at night.
Right. And from there, VF-103 went into the 2000s, continued to fly numerous missions in support of Iraqi freedom, and then transitioned from the F-14 to the Super Hornet in 2005. They continued to fly missions in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom and efforts in Somalia. Leading the air wing, they led the air wing, so the whole Navy Marine Corps air wing in effects on target during a 5-month period, supporting coalition ground forces. Essentially, they were the most lethal squadron of that time period. Again, they were the most lethal squadron while supporting Operation Inherent Resolve, deploying more precision-guided munitions than any other single squadron in naval history.
Damn.
Which is insane. 14 precision weapons, 600 rounds of 20 millimeter in direct support of coalition forces in Afghanistan. And then that is my breakdown of the Skull and Crossbones. I highly encourage everybody to do their own research on this stuff because it's too much to get on a podcast. And frankly, the whole history of not just naval aviation, but naval aviation, Marine Corps aviation, and military aviation as a whole is fascinating because it's fascinating. And I think people would enjoy reading up on it.
Can you give, for somebody that did want to take you up on that, where does someone start to do that?
Google. I would just go to Google, look up the Battle of Midway. Look up the air campaign at Midway. If you want to look something more recent, I would look up Desert Storm. I would look up, if you're somebody who's a car guy like me, I would look up the which planes do we have? Which planes did the Navy have? Which planes did the Marine Corps have? And tie them to historic events. And then from there, continue to sort of build on your knowledge foundationally from the planes, but you're building on a greater historic knowledge of the whole conflict. Because if you, let's say you wanted to look at the history of the car, right? The history of the car would lead you to learning about Henry Ford and Elon Musk and other, huge names that were vastly influential throughout the whole history of the world, I would say. And you learn a lot more. You just got to find what gets you going and then dig deeper into it. It's something, if you want it, the information is all out there, especially with Google now. It's insane.
Quickly on this note, if you are a movie guy, I would encourage, there's a movie that came out in 2019 called Midway. I would encourage you watch the 1976 version of this movie. Henry Fonda, James Coburn, Charlton Heston. Awesome movie. And also the Pearl Harbor movie that came out with Ben Affleck. If you want like a love story, maybe watch that. It's like one of the most historically inaccurate movies of all time. I would suggest Tora on the Pearl Harbor situation. Any war movies worth noting, Jackson? Favorite war movies?
I just Googled it. I just watched a movie this past year, and
What movie?
I believe it was called Unbroken.
About the prisoner of war.
Yeah.
Great movie.
It's about a prisoner of war. Right. Louis Zamperini, who was a track runner, and he was also a naval aviator, or I believe he was a naval aviator. Let's see here.
We'll have to Google that.
Essentially, I can't remember off the top of my head. The story's incredible. That's part of my problem. I read about history and then I forget the names, I forget the details, but I get what I need from the story. Going into more stories that I literally found today in the wake of preparing for this podcast is I wanted to figure out some notable Virginia Tech graduates.
Yeah.
And, what's that?
Yeah, no, it was.
I wanted to find some notable Virginia Tech graduates, and going back to learning about history, this was me just looking at Virginia Tech military graduates, and it led me to this story. The guy's name was Sergeant Herbert Thomas. He was a Medal of Honor recipient. He was born in Columbus, Ohio.
Go Bucks!
Moved to South Charleston, West Virginia. From there, he went to Virginia Tech on a full scholarship and joined the Corps of Cadets. He was in Charlie Company. I don't know if you have anybody who's in the Corps of Cadets that listens to this podcast, but he was in Charlie Company and the Corps of Cadets.
Plenty.
That still exists. Shout out to them. He led Virginia Tech in pass receptions and scoring in the year of 1940. That was his senior year. He did not graduate because he decided to enlist in the Marine Corps in the onset of World War II. While he was in the Marine Corps, he went to the Pacific, and he was in, I believe he was in 3-3, and he was in the Battle of Kuromokina Lagoon, Battle of Kuromokina Lagoon on the 7th of November, 1943. They were in a spot where they had to render inoperative machine gun nests, Japanese machine gun nests. There were 2 that they knew of. They rendered those useless, and they discovered a 3rd one. And now he's a sergeant, right? So his responsibility is to lead junior Marines, the corporals, lance corporals, and the privates and the PFCs. The young guys, he's the guy in charge of those guys. So he'd be like maybe like 5 at the time, probably 5 guys. So they take out 2 machine gun nests, which is difficult. And then they discover a 3rd one, and Sergeant Thomas got his Marines set up in positions to take the machine gun nest, and he was going to initiate the attack via grenade. He throws the grenade, and for those who don't know, Japan was pretty dense jungle where they were. Somehow the grenade ended up right back in his lap. So, don't know what happened there, but instead of getting lost and instead of having a mental lapse and freezing, he jumped on the grenade, saved his fellow Marines who were next to him, and they ended up taking the 3rd machine gun nest, and they were successful in what they wanted to do. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for that. And since then, there's been a Navy destroyer, USS Herbert J. Thomas, DD 833, named in his honor. There was the Thomas Memorial Hospital, which is in South Charleston, West Virginia, named in his honor. And there was Thomas Hall, which was a dormitory, named in his honor, built in 1949.
At Virginia Tech.
At Virginia Tech. Might not be there anymore, the Thomas dorm, but his legacy is etched in the fibers of Virginia Tech. And I think if you're a Virginia Tech fan, period, I think this is an important story that you should seriously look into. Because as a former football player, I understand the benefits that football can provide you as a man. you're a kid when you're playing college football. You're a kid when you're playing high school football. But once you're done with that and you graduate from college, 21, 22 years old, you're a man. But, you're paying taxes. You might be living in your own place. You're a man. And a lot of the lessons you learn in football, how to carry yourself humbly, how to take getting your ass whipped, one day and then turning it around and turning it into a success or turning it into a learning experience. Those lessons that you learn apply so much to being a man in life. And I also think they apply to being a great Marine. There's so many parallels that the sport of football provides to anything in life. And stories like this, mind you, I don't know if he was relying on his football acumen or his his pass receptions, his stats. I don't know if he was relying on those when he was in Japan, but the team aspect of football was ingrained in his body and ingrained in his mind to where he is a hero. He was a hero. And I think there's a lesson for everybody in that. That's what I have on that.
Hell yeah. Any other appreciate that background. Any other notable VT grads on your list?
Well, there was Lieutenant Junior Grade John McKay, who was a naval officer. It's kind of hard to follow that one up. But Lieutenant Junior Grade John McKay was a naval officer, World War II pilot, aeronautical engineer, and the test pilot. For those who know what a test pilot is, they're taking a dude who's a very good pilot, and they're putting him in a brand new aircraft and saying, go fly this. Hopefully you can figure out how to land it, and hopefully it doesn't catch on fire. That'd be, great. That'd be awesome. He was one of those guys, and he flew the X-15, which technically made him an astronaut as well because he got 50 miles above the Earth's surface. So,
damn.
I guess you can add that to his list of accomplishments.
This is a plane 50 miles above the Earth?
I might have checked that up. We might have a mistake here.
Maybe 50,000 feet?
No, well, hold on here. If I jack this up, I'm going to feel terrible.
Don't feel terrible. I make mistakes all the time.
Let's see here. Nope, I was right. He was an astronaut, technically. I was correct. All right, so there was also a Major Lloyd Williams from World War I who's famously quoted after somebody suggested that he retreats during World War I, and he said his famous quote was, "Retreat, hell, we just got here."
What is that? What is that?
Exactly.
No, what is that? No, what is that?
That's grit.
That's grit. That's a whole lot of grit.
I can't believe it. I'm sorry for ruining your podcast, for having a mental brain fart.
Jackson, you were right. You wanted to make sure you were right.
Yeah, but I was not.
What is that called?
Positive.
What is that called?
I need to fix it and be positive.
No, but what is it called?
You tell me. What is it called?
Accountability. That's called accountability.
All right. Anyway, in summary, I think everybody listening to this podcast should take a deep dive in some of the history behind A, the game, the Army-Navy game, B, the game of football, and the lessons that it can teach you as a man, and C, if you're interested in Virginia Tech history, take a deep dive in the military history. I mean, there's a lot there. And it'll get you fired up. You'll find some good stories in there.
Love it. Love it. Good stuff, Jackson. Bringing a lot to the table. We're going to transition into the game preview for the Army-Navy game. And I just want to say this as a precursor before we get into the game. I've been to the Army-Navy game. I am prone to some crocodile tears. There are things, it just gets you, right? Army-Navy game is one of the things that just gets you. CBS does a great job with like that intro commercial. Gets me every year. National Anthem gets me every year. And I actually went to the Army Navy game in Philadelphia. It was fantastic. Shout out to my guy Pete B. But fantastic. If you have the opportunity to go to an Army Navy game, if you've never watched football, if you don't care for Army or Navy, the football team, I highly encourage you to go to this game. It should be a bucket list item for anybody who loves college football or loves America. Highly suggest going to one of these games. So, game preview. The line. Army minus 6.5. The over-under is set at 38.5 perts. Let's jump into a Navy preview. Jackson, give me some notes on Navy.
Okay, so we're 8-3.
Yep.
We have losses to Notre Dame, Rice, and Tulane. Now to give you some background on those losses, Notre Dame, we had something about 7 turnovers, I believe.
Can't do that.
Can't do that. Obviously, turnovers lose ball games, as do penalties. So that was a moment. I think we were probably like a little bit a deer in headlights moment, and it happens. Part of the game. That's part of the learning how to figure it out in football. You got to learn how to figure it out sometimes. We go into Rice, which is even worse. We lost to Rice.
You can't lose to food. Shout out my guy Josh Payton. You cannot lose to food
like that.
Yeah, a carb. They lost to a carb.
Simple carb. But anyway, there was about 8 hours worth of rain delays in that game. Away game, we were playing in Houston. I believe we were playing in Houston.
Is that where Rice is, Jackson? I can do a quick Google.
Not we, but this current Navy team.
Rice University is located. Did you say Houston?
The game was in Houston, I believe.
Oh, okay. Because Rice itself is in Houston. Good call. You're correct. Accountability.
Anyway, played Rice, about 8 hours worth of delays. I was watching the game. It was ugly. Again, it was an example of us losing the game, and maybe letting the environment get to our heads a little bit, which again is part of the game. That's part of football. That can't account for it. You can't plan for it. It's just the fact of the matter. You got to go to next week. We went to next week, blew somebody out, and then we played Tulane. And Tulane, they had our number. This was back when Tulane was ranked 19th, and they were rolling, and they rolled through us. But on the bright side, let's look at the year as a whole. Memphis, who's ranked 25th in the country right now, we blew them the hell out. And this just goes to show that football math is not a thing. All these stat makers who try and come up with the next best stat, they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Jackson, we don't play games on pieces of paper.
Right.
We don't.
Exactly. If every nerd with a pen and a laptop played football, then football would probably, be pretty boring, right? But anyway, getting back on topic here. We scored over 40 in 4 games, which is unusual for a Navy offense. I mean, we've traditionally ran a very, very meat and potatoes triple option, which has worked historically. Now, with I guess just the aging of the offense, as well as teams' abilities to adapt to the offense, as well as I would say there's an overall greater level of talent in college football now than there ever has been. But I don't even know how that's possible. It's just players have gotten better and bigger and faster in the last 5 years than they were historically. That's just a fact.
Yep.
On average. Now, we're running a hybrid triple option where we're passing the ball a lot more, and we're running with tight end, which I think allows our running game to have a little breathing room. And it also allows the passing game, I don't know if it allows the passing game to do anything, but we have a more developed passing game, which I think is a product of teams predicting that we'll be a run-heavy offense, which we still are. There's no doubt about it. We have 8 players with rushing touchdowns. But the overall idea is that you roll into the Navy, you're playing a triple option team. Now, when you're Navy, that opens the opportunity for you to throw the ball more. You need to get some different athletes that you maybe didn't have when you were a true triple option team. You need to get a different kind of player out wide. You need to get a quarterback who can throw the ball a lot better than's expected from a Navy quarterback. Now, not saying the quarterbacks of past couldn't throw. It's just our offense did not, I don't want to say didn't promote it, but that wasn't the main thing. Now, whereas now the main thing is that we do not really have a main thing. We're dynamic, we're explosive. We have many different ways to skin a cat when it comes to the offense. And we have a quarterback who's great. He I believe through week 10, he had the highest QBR in the country.
Blake Horvath, dog.
Stud.
Dog.
Not was a stud. He is a stud. And it'll be interesting to see if the week off allowed him to get healthy. He was dealing with some back spasms. He had a thumb injury, which obviously doesn't help if you're trying to throw the ball with your thumb, right? Obviously throwing it with your hand, but your thumb's a part of your hand. So if you have an injured thumb, it kind of makes things a little tough. So he had a week off. The other quarterback, the backup quarterback, was able to bring us back and won a come from behind game against ECU. So he's a dog too. It'll be an interesting game. I know Army's currently favorite. I like I've made very clear, I don't put much stock into keyboard football players. They'll probably be right and then call me a dumbass when this podcast is out and the game's over. If so, let it be. But if not, I told you guys so. I believe Navy's going to win. I mean, I think we match them on paper.
Jax, hold on. We haven't even previewed Army yet. But we just talked about Navy.
Anyway, to round out my prediction or preview for Navy football, highly explosive offense, highly dynamic offense, relatively compared to his teams of Navy's past. We have 8 players with rushing touchdowns, which means we can get the ball out to different guys. You have a lot of people you need to key off of. It'll be interesting. Our defense, hard-nosed defense, we struggle a little bit against the run, which I know how the practices go. Like throughout the year, even if you're playing Temple week 2 and you have Army at the back end of the year, you're doing Army Navy. You're practicing for Army Navy at least for 15 minutes a day in week 2 when you play them in 3 months. So that's something to consider. I mean, these games, every year is a different story. And historically, they haven't been high scoring. So I think that goes to show that the teams come in prepared for this game. So
real quick, I want to give some shout outs. Ken Niumatalolo was your head coach when you were at Navy. He is 7-5 at San Jose State. For you Virginia Tech listeners, DJ Harvey balled out for San Jose State this year. But right now, their head coach is Coach Jasper, who is the offensive coordinator when you were at Navy. Is that correct?
Wait, what?
Who is the head coach at Navy right now?
No, it's Coach Newberry.
Coach Newberry. That's right. Coach Newberry is the head coach.
He was a DC when I was a
DC.
When I was a junior, he showed up as a DC, and he's a good man. He's a new coach, relatively speaking, to other coaches. But I mean,
Army and Navy, 2 teams that were in the talks for a playoff spot. So
you take away 2 wins, and hell, like 20 points. 2 wins and 20 points, and we have a legitimate argument. I think if Notre Dame doesn't hang 50 on us and we don't turn the ball over 7 times and we win out.
If Navy or Army's undefeated, you got to put them in the playoff. That's not the situation, but I got
to. Hey, if a frog had wings,
yes,
bump his ass every time he jumps.
Facts. That is a fact. Previewing Army, they are 11-1. Their single loss coming to Notre Dame just a few weeks ago. By the way, real quick, beer check. Did you study nursing at Navy? Were you a nursing major? Because you've been nursing that fat tire that you've been having at the beginning of this podcast for the whole time. So I'm just.
I didn't know we were competing, but if we were, I'm on my third one.
I am also on my third. Just a heads up. By the way, if you haven't had one yet, Jackson, Happy Dads.
Oh, me and my beautiful, sweet angel of a wife had a lot of those. A little while back.
Shout out to Julia.
She's the best.
She is a beautiful, sweet angel. So I'm a Miller in, a Happy Dad in, and about a good bit of the way through neutral. Classic cranberry.
I didn't know it was a competition.
It's not. It's never a competition. We always encourage being safe and being smart. I just hadn't seen you crack another one open. You must have been in camouflage when you've been doing that. So
that's it. I was in camouflage when I was.
All right.
Do you want to get rowdy on this podcast?
I mean, I'm down to get a little rowdy. We got some fun stuff after this part's over. We're gotta get through the preview here.
All right.
11-1 Army, single loss to Notre Dame. Top 10 defense in the country, only allowing 15 points per game, which is good for 7th in the country. They've held opponents to a touchdown or less 5 times this season. They've only given up 300 total yards in 5 games. So in the rest of their games, they've held their opponents to less than 300 yards. They have held opponents to under 100 yards 6 times, including holding Temple to -5 rushing yards. That's a rushing stat. So they've held their opponents to under 100 yards rushing 6 times. They held Temple to -5. So they ran the ball backwards. Army does not turn the ball over. They have only 5 turnovers on the year, but they have forced 19 turnovers. That's good for +14. The leading rusher and thrower for Army is Bryson Daly. So if you like good dual threat quarterback play, Bryson Daly, Blake Horvath, both incredibly fun to watch. He has 1,480 rushing yards with 877 passing yards with an 80.9 QBR. He has 37 touchdowns on the year. Wow. A lot of touchdowns, only 1 pick. So, going to be a fun game. I placed this bet before we got on here. I fully expect this game to go over. The over-under is at 38.5 points. I think both of these offenses, you're not going to be watching one of these games where both teams just can't move the ball. Both of these teams have moved the ball on every single opponent. I think this is almost like the Iowa effect. You look at this game and you're like, triple option, going to go under. I think this game's going over. I would bet the over. Jackson, to be completely transparent with you, I have the over parlayed with Army to cover 6. I will be rooting for Navy, but my rooting interest and my dollar interest sometimes conflict. So
Army to cover 6, meaning they have to win by
6. They will win by
6
points or more is what I think is going to happen. Now, score predictions.
I can't believe that. That's news to me since we started this podcast.
What is?
That you bet Army to beat Navy.
I did. I will be rooting for Navy. But I think Army is the better team this year. We will see. Games are not played on a piece of paper or Billy Ray's DraftKings account or FanDuel. I'm not about to give away who I'm betting with. But my score prediction, Jackson, I got Army 35, Navy 17. That is my score prediction. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Navy wins. I will be rooting for Navy. I'll be wearing blue, rooting for Navy, wearing this hat. Shout out to Shore Club in San Diego. It's a pretty cool hat, by the way. I just got to be honest with you. I don't know why it's not showing. Shore Club 2021 beat Army. Jackson, score prediction.
I'm baffled. That's such a clown move.
Okay.
Anyway, score prediction from me: Navy by 2,000 points. Probably Eli Heidenreich. Probably about 500 rushing yards.
Wow.
And I'd say I say Bryson Daly gets sacked 7 times.
Okay. Wow. All right. My score prediction is 35-17. Jackson, would you say 2,000 to nothing?
Too much to not enough, Navy.
Got it. Navy just to win. That is our preview for Army Navy. Now we're 45 minutes into this podcast. I have some questions related to nothing to do with Army Navy, and then we can feel free to kind of just jump. Like if you have something you want to talk about, feel free to bring it up. But I am going to start with this. We are going to run through our knee-jerk thoughts on each one of the teams that are in the playoff. And we are going to start from the top seed down to the bottom. So I'm just going to say the team. You tell me if you like them, you hate them, why you like them or hate them, and your opinion. So Oregon, the number 1 seed in the college football playoff.
Interesting.
Okay.
I think it's interesting. I remember watching Oregon get blown out by somebody in the last 10 years, maybe, and I was like,
Wow.
Okay. They're not a good football team. Whole lot of flash and not a lot of impact. So I'm happy to see them doing well. I mean, that's cool. I don't think they'll win it though.
So Oregon, I don't know what game you were watching to see them get blown out. They've won every game they've had this year.
Might have been back in the BCS days.
Maybe. A lot of money. Phil Knight. I absolutely love their head coach, master motivator in Dan Lanning. Haven't lost a game this year. I think they're getting not nearly the amount of respect that they deserve. I also want to point out that their road to the championship, they got rewarded by winning every single game with one of the more difficult paths to win the title. They're likely to see Ohio. Look, I think Ohio State is in a really good spot. They're underseeded based upon performance. I'm not saying they're underseeded based upon their results. They lost to Michigan. They lost to Oregon. But this is going to be a tough game for Oregon in their first game. So those are my thoughts on Oregon. Moving on to Georgia.
So you have Ohio State beating Tennessee.
I do. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Georgia, the 2 seed. Thoughts?
Love it.
That's it? You just love Georgia?
I mean,
no wrong answer.
I don't like Kirby Smart, I'll be honest with you, and I also don't like Carson Beck. But
why not? Why not?
Kirby Smart, just something. I mean, I'm not gonna say it.
You don't like the bowl cut. I get it.
This guy someday. Probably not, but
you don't like the bowl cut. I think
it's the visor. He needs to You're wearing like a geriatric beach visor or something like that.
Yeah.
He needs to figure that out. But I mean, typically Georgia fans rub me the wrong way. It's good to see something going right in the world. An SEC team in the playoffs. That's good. And they're my pick.
I don't know what world we weren't going to have an SEC team in the playoff.
They're my pick to win the title.
Okay, Georgia to win the title. Carson Beck is hurt. I turned to my buddy Casey and I told him I think he tore his UCL. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about doctor stuff, but it looks like I was right.
Hey, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes, plural. Not the
Jimmy and the Joe.
Period.
Not the Jimmy and the Carson.
Yeah, not the Carson. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes.
Did you watch the Georgia game?
Who's the better team?
Did you watch the Georgia game?
No, I was actually hog hunting at Escambia.
Okay.
I don't know where Escambia is. It's this river system in Florida. If
you haven't seen the hit on Georgia's backup quarterback, I highly suggest you go watch it. It's one of the hardest hits I've seen I'm not kidding. It's one of the hardest hits I've seen in 10 years.
Did he get up?
He did get up. He definitely has a concussion. Patriot, grit, shout out. So those are the thoughts on Georgia. Moving on. First of all, I'll mention coaches that I know of that work for these coaches. So Stacy Searles, offensive line coach at Georgia. Moving over to Boise State, Coach Hilgart, my guy, strength and conditioning coach back at Virginia Tech. He is the strength and conditioning coach at Boise State.
Searles is coaching at Boise?
No, Searles is at Georgia. Hilgart is at Boise.
Oh.
Thoughts on Boise?
I know Searles. I don't know who Hilgart is.
Hilgart's my guy. Thoughts thoughts on Boise?
I like Boise. Conceal guards there. No, I mean the running back's an
Janky.
absolute stud. I
Dog.
mean, I haven't. I'll be completely honest with you. I haven't watched a down of Boise State football.
Okay.
I do know that running back's very good.
Dog.
I've seen him play.
Dog.
I wouldn't count that as a down of. I watched the highlights of Janty on Instagram.
Yeah, he's a dog. He's a dog.
I wouldn't count that as watching downs of Boise State football, but considering they have him, that's significant. And they would play either Penn State
Or SMU.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I got Penn State beating SMU.
Okay.
And then I do think Penn State could probably beat Boise.
Penn State's got like one of the easiest roads to the title, for being honest.
Penn State?
Yeah, because of the stupid seeding situation that we got.
Well, I don't know enough about that to know what's. I just know that the fact that Notre Dame's in it makes me angry. They deserve it, but it makes.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Real quick, because we were talking about Ashton Janty, and I know, like, for those of you watching, Jackson, I would say you're not a casual because you love college football, but you got other stuff going on. You got other stuff that you have to do. You like to go hunt. I'm curious who, if you were voting for the Heisman, who are you giving the Heisman to? You got Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, you got Ashton Janty, you got
Shedeur Sanders. I wouldn't put him on the list.
Okay. You got Travis Hunter, you got Janty, you got the quarterback, you got Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. Like, who's getting
Travis Hunter?
I agree. As somebody who has a $25 bet to win $585 on Travis Hunter winning the Heisman, I sure hope that happens.
I mean, it sucks for Janty.
I know.
Any other year,
he's winning it. Running away.
Everybody, 99% of the keyboard warriors are like, I'm an idiot for saying that Travis Hunter should win because they're like, oh, Janty's the best running back.
I got to be honest. I think the keyboard warriors are actually on Janty.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
They're going to call me an idiot
for
thinking that Travis Hunter should win it. I mean,
Jackson, Navy grad, homeowner, Florida man.
People, I mean, the people who are the social media goofballs who talk about it. Janty should win because he's the best running back of our time. Don't understand how hard playing one side.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about one side. They don't understand how hard playing one side of the football in college. And yeah, Colorado's not I don't know if they're a Power 5 team or a Power 4 team. They're not.
They are. They're in the Big 12.
Okay. Conference realignment.
They were before. They were in a Power 5 conference before. They were in the Pac-12.
Missed that. But anyway, they were not a team of note. But even for them, to play both sides of the football is so hard at the college level.
Especially the defensive back position, because everything that you do is dictated by what something that somebody else
is purely reactionary.
Yes.
It's your sport is reactionary. You don't dictate, it's reactionary.
Yes.
So for him to do that at not only after playing a bunch of snaps on offense, but then to go play DB,
crazy.
Do what he's doing.
Crazy.
And then go back on offense. I don't think anybody understands or comprehends how tough that is. And
yes,
I've never seen it from a football player. I've seen it in high school.
Jabril Peppers, shout out, Premise Catholic.
I've seen it in high school.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he did it in college.
He did
a little bit.
Was it? Yeah, but no, I agree with you. This is not a slight at all. Travis Hunter is not like dabbling on defense and dabbling on offense. He's
the guy.
100 plus snaps every game.
He's the guy who they're throwing away from, who the other team's throwing away from, and the other team's double covering right when they go to defense.
Jackson.
He's that guy. So therefore, I think it's Travis Hunter. I mean, I don't know Janty, but I kind of feel bad for him because he's a dog, and he seems like a good dude. He represents himself well. He He seems like a class act. It just the cards he got dealt right now.
Jackson, double question for you. Number one, thoughts on Deion Sanders, the head coach?
Love it.
Thoughts on Bill Belichick potentially taking the job at North Carolina? Have you heard this?
I heard about it. Yeah, I heard about it. I mean, if Bill Belichick wants to do that, then that's on him.
Would you hire him?
I think I'd be brain dead to not hire him. Especially if I was UNC's AD and they had the year they just had. Like, yeah, I'd hire the general manager of a well-performing Walmart. Honestly, you're telling me I could choose Bill Belichick instead of that guy? Yeah, I'd take Bill Belichick.
All right, this is one where I think you and I are going to strongly disagree on.
But as for you want to talk about Deion?
Yeah.
What do you think about Deion? What do you think?
I got to be honest. I have been on the Deion train. I wish Ed was on this podcast. And honestly, I wish Papa Mitchell was on this podcast. I've been on the Deion train since he got the job. I think that he rubs some people the wrong way. I think that he is pompous. But I think at the end of the day, he absolutely gets the most out of his players. I think that he relates to the players. And I think that he has, in every single situation he's existed in, whether it be baseball, football, coaching, everything that he's done, NFL Network, he has proven people wrong time after time after time after time again. And I love what he's doing for Colorado. I love what he's doing for the sport. I think he's a net positive for the sport. I am a Deion Sanders in college football fan. And I think he's done an amazing job at Colorado. Colorado was one of the worst teams in college football 3 years ago. They were in the playoff conversation this year.
And frankly, I wouldn't have mind seeing him in.
I would. You set the table on that, Jackson. Like you were going to say something controversial. That is one of the least controversial things you have said on this podcast. So,
I'm looking at two teams right now that you could have justified putting them over. Now they might have gotten blown out first round.
Respectfully, no, because they didn't play for their conference championship.
I don't care.
Respect. You don't care.
I don't care. I don't care.
Moving on to the 4 seed.
Anyway, my turn to talk about Deion.
Oh, my bad.
I agree. Continue.
So you
I think he's the man. I mean, I love what he's done for the players.
Real quick. You interrupted me just to say I agree. Is that what you just did?
No.
Oh.
I was saying more, and then you said real quick.
Oh, okay. All right. My bad.
I love what he's done for the players. I mean, I don't know if there are media opportunities or what, but the fact that he is on tape and that video got out of him chewing his players out about either being disrespectful to a teacher, or having not good grades.
I love that everything is out there for you to see.
He's
not covering it up.
I love that, and I love the fact that I don't know if he emphasizes it, but he's making it, or at least he's putting out there's videos of him chewing his players out over grades, which as a high school football coach, kids I coach football in Milton High School.
Shout out Milton.
And those kids, they see those, right? All these kids are on Twitter and Instagram and everything. They see those videos. And he's not only impacting the kids on his team, but he's impacting the recruiting class. And the kids who are the freshmen in high school who want to be recruited someday. They're seeing that and they're realizing that, hey, this matters, right? It matters to Deion Sanders. And he's the coach of Colorado, but it
should matter to you.
Still Deion Sanders, right? Matters to him. So I think his impact, it's a big deal. All right. And I'm happy that he's where he's at. I don't know how long he'll stay at Colorado. I think he might go somewhere else, but I mean, I completely agree. I think it's a net positive, and yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's a net
Okay.
positive football. He- he's like the new generation's representative of what a
Yes.
good quality coach is. Like
Yes.
where the this sounds disrespectful. I get it. Sorry, guys. The older generation's representative of what a good football coach was Nick Saban,
Mhm.
who that's a great representative. Like, let's
Right.
not cut any hairs, but the younger generation's opinion of what's, if he stays around, the younger generation's opinion of what could be a great football coach with regards to,
It's
player
adapt
development.
or die. It's adapt or die, bro. And he
I love
has
it.
great.
I love it. I went on a tangent there,
Mhm.
and none of it made sense, but I love it. He's a player's coach, and
I think it made complete sense.
he's a player's coach, and I like players' coaches.
4 seed Arizona State thoughts.
Hilarious.
Let me ask you a question.
I haven't watched Arizona State.
I knew you were going to say that, and I appreciate your honesty. Jackson, as a guy who I know you and you love watching guys run the ball and you love watching guys run the ball aggressive, you need to, when we're done, go on YouTube and watch Cam Scattaboo. He is my favorite player in college football. He is a violent runner of the football. Came from Sacramento State, dominates football games. The first time that I watched him, I can't remember if I watched him. I watched the game before. I think Mississippi State was the first game I watched, and it was basically like, we're Arizona State. Cam Scattaboo is going to take the ball 35 times. If you stop him, you win. If you don't stop him, you lose. And they can't stop him. Can't stop him. I love Cam Scattaboo. I love that they're in this spot, and I hope they win a game. I love Kenny Dillingham.
Well, they might. That's why they play the game.
Jackson, 2 places you need to go. You would love Arizona. You would love Scottsdale. You would love Colorado. Got to get you out there. Got to get you on skis too. Moving on.
If I get hurt, my career's over.
Hey Jackson.
Then I'm podcasting.
Hey Jackson. There's number one. You could be doing worse things than podcasting.
I'm not. I wouldn't be good enough to get paid for it.
Hey man, you are, and we're gonna get you on skis one of these days. 5 seed, Texas Longhorns.
Happy to see them doing well. I don't like Sark though.
What do you not like about Sark?
I saw a video of him getting after some dude who just
Yeah,
I didn't
he's
like
just
that.
doing it. I know the video you're talking about. He's in the tunnel,
I didn't like that.
getting ready to take the field. TV guy's just doing his TV thing. Sark freaks out, screaming at him.
I didn't
Don't like that.
It's not
Don't like that.
He's a football coach. He's supposed to be an adult. He's not getting ready to go to war. He's getting
That's right.
ready to send people to war. Shouldn't be doing that.
So now we're going to switch it up from talking about in order of the seeds to the matchup. So Texas.
Hold on. I like Texas though.
Okay.
I mean, I for some reason I've always liked Texas, even when I was young. I don't know if it was like that. I liked that, but I'm happy to see them doing well. I mean, it's good.
So they're playing a home game against Clemson in the first game. I want to say one thing on Texas. Shocked that they did not play Arch Manning in the SEC championship. I think that Ewers was awful in that game. He was awful in the other game against Georgia. And I think that bringing a little bit of a change, Texas was basically like, hey, we're going to throw the ball with Ewers and we're going to try to run the ball. And they couldn't do either one. And Georgia beat them the exact same way they beat them in the first game. So Clemson, give me your thoughts on Clemson first.
Haven't watched enough of them. I mean, I'm sounding like a broken record here.
That's fine.
I watched Alabama football, Navy football, LSU football, and a couple of Ole Miss football.
No Virginia Tech. It was a good year not to watch
Virginia Tech games. I watched the first one.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah.
We had a fun time though.
I had a great time. I didn't have a great time for the first quarter. I thought I was gonna go see the higher power at one point, but
Yeah.
with Clemson, I as somebody who's not the biggest Dabo fan,
Why? Because we disagree here.
I don't know, but I don't know.
Mm.
But I'll say this about Dabo,
Mhm.
and maybe I shouldn't.
No, go.
Maybe I shouldn't lead it saying I'm not the biggest fan of the guy because again, he's like Dion. He's a player's coach,
Mhm.
which I I like that.
Loves Jesus.
To add to add on to what else I like about him. Yeah, he loves Jesus. I love Jesus, which is
How
awesome.
can you not?
Exactly. How can you not? I like the fact that they haven't used the transfer portal. I think uh, I respect the hell out of that.
He's doing it his way. I like Dabo.
And in the beginning of the year, he was ready to go down with the damn ship.
He was.
Which,
Got to respect it.
if anything, after this year, maybe I'm becoming a Dabo fan.
So who are you rooting for, Texas or Clemson?
Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to seed. Let's flip sides and let's go to Penn State. Thoughts on Penn State?
Where is that game?
That game is in Happy Valley, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's gonna be a blowout.
Blowout.
Yeah.
Well, what are your overall thoughts on Penn State?
My beautiful, sweet angel of a wife.
Mm.
Her cousin lives out by Penn State.
Wow.
Therefore,
not a lot going on out there. You got a chocolate.
Therefore, I love that place, and I hope.
Have you ever been?
Yes.
Oh, when did you go to Happy Valley?
We went to the Ohio State Penn State game.
You were there for the whiteout? That was badass. We were at Penn State for recruiting.
I loved it. I love the state of Pennsylvania. I hope Penn State. I also love the state of Texas. Don't get me wrong. But I do love the state of Pennsylvania, and I have friends that live there. I have family that lives there. So therefore, I hope Penn State beats the hell out of SMU.
So, real quick on Penn State. I don't love James Franklin. Not my favorite.
I don't know who that is.
He is the head coach of Penn State.
I don't care.
Okay.
I love LSU. I don't like Brian Kelly.
Right. As I was saying, James Franklin, not a huge fan. But in these last couple weeks, James Franklin had two awesome moments. Number one, beats the hell out of Maryland. Loxley is pissed that James Franklin is scoring touchdowns in the fourth quarter. In his post-game press conference, he goes out there and he says, hey, look, my job as a head coach is to play the third and fourth string guys. My third and fourth string guys are beating your number one guys. That's not my problem. Loved that. Also, he had that Maryland game. They're coming out of the tunnel, or they're playing Purdue. They're playing somebody awful. And there's a video from a fan recording the team coming out. And the fan is yelling, man, Penn State, get ready. We're about to play Oregon in the Big Ten Championship. And James Franklin looks directly in the fan's camera and he says, yo, we got to beat Purdue or whoever we're playing. Get your mind right. That fired me up. Loved that.
That's awesome.
Thoughts on SMU? They're playing SMU.
Southern Methodists, they also love Jesus out there.
They do.
We used to play Southern Methodist. They were in our conference for a little while. They're a good team.
Not a lot of people call it Southern Methodist. I like that you're saying that.
Okay. They're a good team. I mean, I think this is the good thing about the 12-team playoffs. Well, I think I'm biased towards SMU. Let's be honest here. But
you just said you were biased towards Penn State because you're a beautiful angel of a wife.
No, I didn't say I was biased. Those words never came out of my mouth. But
okay,
in this sense, I'm biased towards Penn State because they used to be in our conference.
Sure.
And
no, SMU. You're biased towards SMU because they were in your conference.
Right. I'm happy to see that they're getting a shot, which frankly I should be that way for Arizona State and Indiana. But That's the good thing about the college football playoffs. I mean, I think this year a lot of records may or may not have been indicative of the quality of the team,
Mm.
i.e., strength of schedule.
Mhm.
Everybody knows what I'm talking about here.
Yeah,
Um,
we are aware.
yeah,
Don't
and
be chirping the ACC, bro.
I'm not. I'm not talking about the ACC. I'm not talking about the ACC.
Who are
I'm
we
talking
talking
about
about?
the SEC.
Ah,
I'm talking about 3 specific teams from the SEC.
okay.
Anyway, back to Southern Methodist. I mean, it's good. I wouldn't mind. I know I said I hope Penn State beat. I hope. I know I said I hope Penn State beats the hell out of them. I think it'd be cool to see them, maybe beat Penn State and play Boise close. That'd be awesome. I like Southern Methodist.
Real
Hey,
quick,
hey, I don't know if this is possible. Can we pause this?
I got to take a pee too. So
Okay,
can
let's
we
pause.
take a quick pee break?
Yes.
All right, I'll be right back. There it is. I'm about to finish this Miller latte, and I'm driving into I don't know if you've had this before, a hoop tea. They're fire.
No, dude, I drink Coors Lights and beer.
So moving on to our next couple teams, we got Indiana. Let's start with Indiana. Thoughts on Indiana?
Haven't seen enough of them, but everybody I know from the state of Indiana is cool as hell. So
Hell yeah.
hopefully they get a good one.
Well, Kurt Sig got stuff going up there.
Here's my thing with the whole playoffs. I may
it.
not like some of these teams, but I hope the games are good. Like, if
think we all
anything
hope
needs to
that.
come out of this 12-team playoffs, it needs to be good games. They need to put the right teams in. Now, first year as the 12-team playoff, we may have a learning experience. There may be some teams that get blown out.
Mhm.
But I hope that's not the case. I hope they got it right.
Indiana is playing Notre Dame at Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana. Thoughts on Notre Dame?
Is that a state rivalry?
No. Well, I mean, Indiana's in Bloomington. Notre Dame's in South Bend. They're in the same state. The game's on Friday night. It's the only game of the night.
Where is it?
South Bend, Notre Dame. It's God's country.
That's gonna be a hell of a game. On paper, it should be. Notre Dame's good. They've been rolling.
They have.
And they started rolling when they played Navy.
They did.
And I watched a couple of Notre Dame games early in the year, and they looked average, I would say.
I mean, they looked pretty good when they beat Texas A&M at Texas A&M.
Okay.
SEC.
But they looked really good when they played Navy. They looked really good.
Yeah.
And that's when they sort of started to come out of their shell a little bit.
Yeah.
They started, beating the hell out of teams.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see. That's a good game. I really like Notre Dame's coach.
Freeman. Marcus.
Can't think of his name right now.
Marcus Freeman. I just said it.
He seems like a class act.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that.
Who are you rooting for?
Probably Indiana for an upset.
Last quadrant. The big one.
Up top left.
Tennessee.
For those who don't know, we're looking at the
Tennessee, Indiana. Oh, color printer. Wow. You must got money.
I don't play around, dude.
You got money.
I don't. No, I got the Shaq printer, dude. Epson Eco Tank. The Epson Eco Tank with the bottles of ink.
Is that Shaq? What does that have to do with Shaq?
He advertised them.
Oh, okay.
Get the Epson Eco Tank. And he showed the bottle of ink. And the bottle's really like the size of a Coors Light, but he made it look like
a Bud Light Mini.
He made it look like this.
Can I ask you, are Bud Lights back?
Yeah.
Bud Lights are back.
Yeah. Yeah, no comment. But yeah.
Bud Lights are back. So thoughts on Tennessee?
I hate him. I don't hate him.
How?
I don't like him. Nothing sucks like the Big Orange.
That's facts.
So I got Ohio State winning that.
So you like Ohio State?
Yeah. And then I got
No, wait. What are your thoughts on Ohio State?
I don't like him either.
Why?
Something about him.
Okay, that is a
I think it's Ohio. I lump a bunch of teams in the same bracket, which like I probably shouldn't do. This is a casual take. I understand that, but it's like Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Clemson. Frankly, every year is their year in
Yeah.
the preseason, and none of the years are their year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mind you, I know Ohio State's done some good things, but I don't know. I'm not a big Ryan Day fan.
You know where we get this from, right?
Big Russ.
Big Russ. Big Russ.
Do the fans know who Big Russ is?
Some do. Big Russ is the king.
I think they should get a good idea of who Big Russ is from this.
Big Russ is a lover. Big Russ loves everybody that he meets personally until he doesn't. Until there's a reason for him not to. But
he's got good reasons.
Yes, but in situations like Ohio State, Clemson, you'll ask him, you're like, Big Russ, why don't you like Ohio State? And he'll just hit you with I don't have a tangible reason. I just don't like them. And they fit into that category.
I mean, I probably respect my dad's opinion on the sport of football more than any coach I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's going to listen to this, and I wish that he may be thinking he's out of the game for a little while, but
he still got it.
I think there's a lot of he could do. I think any football program in America would benefit from his opinion.
Big Russ.
And frankly, anybody would benefit from having Big Russ around.
Hire Big Russ. Get him on staff.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to.
So Tennessee, Ohio State, you're rooting for Ohio State?
Yeah, so all right. So let's look at outside in. I got Ohio State beating Tennessee. I got Texas beating Clemson. I got Notre Dame beating Indiana. I got Penn State beating SMU. From there, I got Oregon beating Ohio State. I got Texas beating Arizona State. I got Penn State squeaking out a win against Boise State. A good game, probably the best game of the playoffs.
Wow.
And I have Georgia beating the winner of Notre Dame, Indiana. I'm probably wrong in that Indiana pick, but that's okay. And then from there, I got Georgia beating the winner of Boise and Penn State. I got Oregon. Hell, I might have Texas beating Oregon.
Okay.
And then we got Georgia and Texas.
Georgia, Penn State. Well, Georgia, Penn State. So Georgia's beating Penn State and Texas is beating Oregon.
Right. I'll probably have Georgia beating Penn State. And then I might have Texas beating Georgia.
It's hard to beat the same team 3 times in a row. It's tough. Now, Jackson, that is such an SEC homer bracket. But
what's the best conference in college football?
I mean, if you're asking me, it's the SEC.
Okay, ask every football fan. What are they going to say?
I mean, it depends on who they're a fan of.
Well, average,
if you ask an Ohio State fan, they're going to argue with you that.
All right, if you ask every college football fan in the country, who's going to be the biggest majority?
I mean, it's going to be the SEC, and I believe the SEC is the best conference in the country because
they are the best conference in the country.
The SEC signed 58 of the top 100 recruits in the country, which is more than every other conference combined.
That's the thing.
For my money, the SEC is the best conference in America.
Therefore, I think the SEC, one of the SEC teams, will be the national champion.
Okay,
national champion this year.
We shall see.
I don't think it's going to be Oregon. And it would be a miracle for Boise State to be the national
Okay.
champion. Eddie, what you doing, man?
Last couple questions for you, Jax, before we wrap up. And you just spoke to Eddie, one of your 4 cats. Can you sell America on being cat owners?
I mean, come on, man. It's better than this.
Cats over dogs?
Oh, animals. Just love animals.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. How many? What are the cats' names?
So that's Eddie, named after a great guitar player, Eddie Van Halen,
Yep.
aka Shreddy Van Halen. And then I got Dwayne, who got poked in the eye.
No.
His eyes swollen shut right now.
No.
Like actually swollen shut. I was kind of worried. I was like, yeah. I called the vet. I was like, hey, can cats get pink eye? Because I didn't know.
Did you fart on your cat?
No, they poop in a litter box, dude. They poop in a box. Like, and I don't know, maybe the fumes got to him. But we found out, no, he had a laceration on his eyelid. Therefore, his eyelid was shut.
Yeah.
Just like a UFC fighter, dude. A little badass. But that led me to believe that Shreddy Van Halen shredded Dwayne's eyelid. Dwayne, named after another great guitar player.
Dwayne Allman.
Dwayne Allman. And then I got Mary, who was a stray cat. So here's where it's all started. I took in Mary.
Yeah. Named after who? Named after who?
There was on the speaker in the house, I was listening to the Hendrix song, "A Wind Cries Mary," therefore Mary. But I initially named Mary Joseph because when I took Mary in off of the street, I thought her name. I thought she was a dude.
You didn't look?
No, dude. Who do you think I am? Jeffrey Dahmer? No, dude. I'm not checking out cats like that. Anyway, I took then Joseph and I called my sweet angel of a wife, Julia.
Yes, you've referred to her
on FaceTime, and I was like, "Hey, meet Joseph. He's my new cat." And my sweet angel of a wife was like, "Yo, Joseph looks pregnant." And then I paused. I was like, "Hey, Julia, meet Mary." So her name ended up, damn, Eddie.
Name being Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, her name ended up being Mary, and she was pregnant. Julia was right.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave birth to these little badasses, little hell raisers.
Wait, so there's Eddie.
There's Eddie. There's Dwayne, who's not in the picture right now. Eddie's the only one who's trying to ruin my podcast, big boy. And he's trying to drink gun oil right now. But yeah, she had Eddie, Dwayne, Loretta, who Julia has, my wife. She has Loretta, who's actually a calico cat, and then there's Josie, who are
Loretta and Josie named after?
Loretta's named after Loretta Lynn, the great country artist. Okay. And then I didn't name Josie. Okay. My buddy named Josie. I gave Josie to my buddy. But yeah, man, we took in a cat and gave her a better life, and she gave birth, and now these kids have a good life because they would have been born on the street, and that's right, they didn't.
Unbelievable.
But unbelievable. They're good boys and good girls.
That's right.
I love them. I don't cats versus dogs, man. Come on, dude.
Jackson, Thanksgiving, underrated and overrated dishes.
I think oven turkeys are overrated.
Okay, gotta fry it.
Oven turkeys.
Gotta fry it.
No, I think you gotta smoke it. I think that's the best way to do it. Turkey. Me and my roommate Will have done turkeys these last 2 years.
Okay.
And I'll die on this hill. I make the best damn turkey in the country.
You don't gotta die.
I will though. I make the best turkey in the country.
Respect.
But what are you doing, Eddie? I wish I could see this, man. I wish I had a GoPro on just to show you guys.
You'd look ridiculous.
But yeah, I think oven turkeys are slightly overrated. I think fried turkeys are slightly overrated just because they're difficult to do. Like, in order to do a fried turkey, you got to be on top of the ball game. You got to do everything right. Your timing, you got to have the oil temperature right. You got to not burn the house down, which has proven to be difficult for some people. A lot of people burn their houses down. Leading cause of house fires on Thanksgiving is turkeys.
Wow.
Because people, they're not on top of their P's and Q's. They burn the house down. They put too much oil in there and they get the oil hot. They put a frozen turkey in, kaboom, house fire. And now they're filing an insurance claim.
Damn.
But if everybody just got a smoker and smoked their turkeys, maybe we'd be all right. Now, underrated dish of Thanksgiving, I'd say a good potato casserole.
See, I love green bean casserole. Our dad makes a mean
green bean casserole is great, objectively. If you don't like green bean casserole, then I don't like you.
It's fact.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. But, cut and dry with me.
Yeah. I mean, that's a different, like, I bet Tennessee hates green bean casserole.
Pack them up. Get them out of here.
Figure it out. Figure it out. You know who I bet would love some green bean casserole?
Who?
Sergeant Herbert Thomas. I bet he ate green bean casserole.
I bet he did.
In South Charleston, West Virginia.
Top 5 states in America.
We did this last year.
I know. I'm asking you just to do it again.
Number 1, Florida.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 2, what are we basing this on?
Vibes.
Florida, Texas. I love Pennsylvania. I think it's the most underrated state in the country.
Okay.
New Jersey's home. A lot of people that I love are in New Jersey.
Not a top 5 state, though.
I love New Jersey. It's home.
I do too. But it's not a top 5.
Don't know if I'd ever live there. I might. I'll probably end up living there someday, but
I'd be surprised.
I love New Jersey.
Mom, we love New Jersey.
Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania. Let's see here. I think Arkansas. I've never been there, but everything I hear about Arkansas is awesome.
You can't just. Okay.
I haven't been to a lot of states, dude. But everything I hear about Arkansas is pretty damn cool.
Okay, so your list so far is New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Florida, Arkansas. What do we round?
No, my list is Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, and then probably
Jersey and Arkansas.
South Carolina's up there.
Yeah. Okay. Have you ever been to South Carolina?
North Carolina's up there.
What about VA?
Western North Carolina. Virginia, the taxes are too high.
Jax, do you have any questions for me?
What has been the biggest learning experience throughout your professional career? Your professional career, the things that you've done to make money. What has been the biggest learning experience and also your biggest failure? What has been your biggest failure in your professional career?
I would say my biggest failure is I am very poor at delegating work. I would say that's been the biggest lesson of 2020. I don't want to say it's the biggest lesson of the year, but I think delegating work, being in a position where there are people that may not be subject matter experts on something yet, but making sure they get to being a subject matter expert to take work off of your plate or to help create more inertia in certain things. As it pertains to podcasts, Jackson, no matter what you do, people are always going to have an opinion on you. And if your opinion means anything, people are going to have positive and negative opinions. You just got to roll with it. There's always some good that comes out of negative feedback. Feedback is a gift. Shout out to Sarah Louise Boland. That is one of the lessons that she taught me that stick with me. I would say those things. A lot of people have some positive things to say. A lot of people have some negative things to say. You got to take the lessons from both and apply them. A lot of people who have negative things to say, they may not be willing to stand behind a name and say it. You got to take it if it's rational and good feedback, and you got to throw it away and kind of let it roll off your shoulder if it's not worthy of your time. I'm actually getting a call from our guy, Brian Williams. You know Brian. You know Big B Rye.
Big B Rye.
Big B.
That's a great picture.
It is.
Good in that picture. Dude.
So yeah,
that's a good answer. I mean, I think it's good to look at your biggest jackups.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I mean, football is football. I'm doing
all
right. I married the coolest person in the world. And yeah, I think I'm doing all right.
Any other questions from you?
Let me think here. How do you like your new truck, man? For those who don't know, my brother, he split the family and he got a Chevy.
I got a great deal on the Chevy. Shout out to Harvey's Automotive. I love my Chevy. I love it.
What do you love?
I love the color. I love the aggressive nature of it. So I went from a Ford F-150 2004, had 287,000 miles on it. Chevys are a little bigger on the front, a little bit of a different body, a little larger. I love mine. The only work that I've had done with it is I've had the leather seats put in. I've had obviously you got to get the bed sprayed. I had a leveling kit put in because I like having an aggressive stance without looking like crazy with a lift kit.
You did the leveling kit on that truck?
Did the leveling kit. Love it. I mean, I love my truck. I love that every time I turn it on, and I know it's going to turn on. That hasn't been the situation for the last 4 years, which has been great. I love my Ford. My Ford got me to California and back. Was the truck that we drove to Little League practice in, and then drove to college in, and did all sorts of stuff in. So I love Ford, but I wouldn't classify myself as a Chevy guy. I would classify myself as an American truck guy. That's who I am. So
the best trucks in the world are made in America.
Now now some people with Toyota Tacomas may have something to say about that.
Toyota Tacomas have no power. They're gutless. The new ones are not reliable. Oh. They're just not, period. They're lightweight. They don't pull a lot of weight. And they're big. They're unnecessarily large.
Toyota Tacomas are large?
I mean, from a purely dimensional standpoint, they're a big truck. I'm a truck guy. For those on the podcast who don't know, I'm a
we know. Oh, we know.
Yeah, I'm a truck guy. I like cars.
Anything else?
Let me think here, man. What do you like, dogs or cats?
I'll probably end up with a dog.
Here's a question that might be a good one. What is your absolute best memory? Not football related. Not football related.
That's such a tough question.
At Virginia Tech.
As a student,
your favorite memory from Virginia Tech that did not result of a football event, i.e., practice, lift.
I mean, it's got to be graduation. I mean,
not including graduation. Talking about between your undergrad. Your favorite classmate. Let's talk about your favorite classroom memory. How about your favorite teacher? Who was your favorite teacher for Virginia Tech?
I had some great ones. Professor Leach, Irene Leach, she was awesome. She was a big mentor for me when I was at school. I loved Professor Chermak. I need to reach out to him. I haven't. Huh?
What did Leach teach?
Jack's concussions, years. I don't remember. I loved Professor Howell, Brody Howell. He was great. He was a Texas A&M grad. He taught me ag econ. I wasn't smart enough to be an econ, so we just counted cows instead. And he always had such a positive outlook and a positive memory on things. I spoke about it. I mean, there's so many people from Tech that I could list off that had a positive impact on me. Mike Goforth is one. He's retiring after, I think, 26 years at Virginia Tech. He was the head of medicine and sports training and PT or whatever. I loved Mike Goforth. He was great. Still love him. I would say graduation is my proudest non-sport moment. Just getting mom down there, getting dad down there. One of my funniest memories from graduation is when they I had been drinking that morning and they said basically the call to action was to stand up and clap if you were a parent graduating. So if you were a graduate who had kids, they were asking you to stand up and clap or be like recognized. I stood up and clapped for my parents. So I was the only person standing that didn't have a child, but I was clapping for my parents. So it was a little misconstrued. It was tough. It was a tough look.
I have one more.
Yeah.
Biggest role model.
Oh. I mean, I'm going to get a little soft. Is that all right?
We're going deep.
I got to say, man, two of my biggest role models are you, mom and dad. You've always been little brother who's been smarter than I am, tough as nails, making stuff happen. You got my dad, arbiter of the family, took care of the family, taking care of mom, taking care of grandpa, taking care of everybody, always having such a positive outlook on everything, giving you that tough love that you need to have. And then mom, I mean, being the ultimate lover, the ultimate encourager, the ultimate awesome person. I know she's watching right now, and I'm not just saying that because of that, but I mean, you, mom and dad, the core four, that's an awesome group of people to look up to. So I would say those are the three people that are the biggest influences on me personally. I know that's a little bit of a cop out, but that would be my answer.
It's not a cop out. It's a good answer.
Thanks, brother. Jax, this is my favorite podcast you do every week. Oh, my bad. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, don't ask that one. I already asked it.
Okay. Any other look at that, man. That might be the most heartfelt moment on Sons of Saturday. But yeah, that's my answer to that question.
And that's America, dude. And that's what this Army Navy game is all about. just everybody doing their best.
Everybody doing their best.
Trying hard, going hard. Whatever happens, that's what it's all about. My roommate just got home, Will Dobbins, who's also a Navy grad.
WD.
Let's see. It might be Will.
You want to come say something?
Come on.
What value added? I just want to hear your opinion on the Army Navy game.
Now, Jax, you're going to have to put the headphones on him so he can.
No, I unplugged them.
Oh, okay. WD, what's up, man? We're wrapping up the podcast. Just wanted to get your thoughts on this Army Navy game. What do you think?
I mean, it's going to come down to what quarterback's healthier. I think Daly and Horvath both have the potential to have made runs at the Heisman Trophy when you don't have two absolute out-of-this-world studs out in Colorado and Utah. So, I just don't know what's going to happen, but which one of them shows up to play and which of them's healthy enough to do it.
You got a score prediction?
Oh, I'd say like 38-35.
Either or. I would say either or.
Yeah, that's another $1 million question. Which Service Academy kicker shows up to play? These teams I think are really evenly matched, and I'm excited to see it. I am. Real
quick, last question on the podcast for you guys. What is up with the mustache? Like, did Top Gun come out and they just gave you guys like, you can do whatever you want? I see you guys are both rocking some stash. Is this a no shave November situation? It is December 10th. Like, what is the protocol here?
Hell, mine started in July of 22. Got to keep it in between the lips, otherwise it'd look like Sam Elliott. But at Navy we couldn't have mustaches, so this was our personal, or for me anyway, my personal go to hell was I get to grow my mustache out, and nothing you can say about it.
That's a good point.
Hell yeah. Well, guys, this has been the Army Navy preview. It's my favorite podcast we do every single year. Jackson, you will always bring out the vibes. Appreciate it. Love you, bro. I am on
you
the
too, man.
over this week. Appreciate it. Check out the pod, Sons of Saturday. Jackson, WD40. Appreciate y'all joining the pod, man. Go Navy.
Beat 'em.
Beat him.